Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Ramadan Journey. I am your host, Afif Khan, and with us as our guide and as our traveling companion is Imam Muhammad al-Asi. He is the author of the Ascendant Quran. We are currently discussing some aspects of Volume 6, and Volume 6 happens to be one of the more comprehensive volumes in the set of 7 which is in print. Volume 7 deals with the tafsir of the first 35 ayat of Surah An-Nisa, and the subject of the surah in these first 35 ayat focuses on the stabilization of family relations, and it focuses on family with a view to extending family relations to the larger society. And it extends those family relations to the larger society in the sense that the commitment of love and finances that are available in a family is to be extended to the dispossessed members of society. Insofar as this particular volume is concerned, it deals within the context of family relations with the subject of women. It deals with most pertinent issues related to women. And one of these issues is the license to marry up to 4 wives. And so we're going to use this as a reference point for our discussion today. And so we're going to give Imam al-Asi a warm welcome to this program.
Thank you.
With regard to the license to marry 4 wives, some of the detractors of Islam they come out and say that this is a provision for Muslim men to satisfy their lusts. And to add fuel to the fire, there are plenty of Muslim men, especially those who have wealth and power, who think that they have a license with this ayah to engage in uninterrupted sexual activity with an unknown number of women. So how would you characterize what this ayah is meant to do in society? What problems is it meant to solve? And are the detractors right? Is Islam does it give a provision for men to satisfy their lusts?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khatamil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Rahmatillahi lil alameen. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wat tabi'een. The issue of a Muslim marrying 4 wives is one that has a lot of commotion around it. And once again, I would like to preface my explanation with the fault that the Muslims themselves carry in this regard. It's true that there are many individuals and interests in this world that are not comfortable with the Quran and Islam. And we can expect them to make an issue out of this. And they do.
They behave like enemies.
Yeah, they behave like opponents and foes. But when it comes to we the Muslims, we should not be giving them any ammunition. And we do. Let's be, I know this is frank talk, but we have to clear this obstacle. And to do that, we refer back to the Book of Allah, where all of this is located, all of this subject matter is located. And the ayah in Surah An-Nisa, on the first page of Surah An-Nisa, you open up, And you will find the ayah stating, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدَةً, etc. Okay, before we surface the meanings of this ayah, we want to take a look at the wording of it. It begins by saying, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى. If you fear that you are not able to dispense institutional justice to orphans, then you are allowed to marry as per your desire for women, a co-second wife, a co-third wife, and a co-fourth wife. Actually, the word wife is not in the ayah, but it is implied. It is not stated by the word wife, but it is implied. And then it winds up by saying, but if you fear, you here are those who embark on the intention of marrying a co-second, third, and fourth wife, then stay with one. The first word to be analyzed here in this ayah is the word tuqsitu. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا. And the problem with many Muslims, because they have withdrawn their mind from the meanings of the Quran when they read the Quran, is that they confuse two words, or they equate two words with each other. One of them is tuqsitu, and the other one is ta'dilu. These are the verbs. The nouns are qist and adl.
Okay, if you can just hold that thought, we'll come back in the next segment and complete the explanation. We're going to just take a short break with our sponsors. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome Ramadan. Welcome Ramadan.
And welcome back. We're talking about the ayah pertaining to the license given to men to marry up to 4 wives. Imam al-Asi was explaining the difference between 2 verbs which are used in the ayah related to 2 concepts which are qist and adl. And so Imam, if you can continue the explanation, please.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the ayah we encounter the word tuqsitu. If you fear, you here is an address to the general Muslim society. If you fear that you are not able to provide governmental justice, administrative justice, social justice to orphans.
Okay, what do you mean by that? Governmental justice or institutional justice to orphans? What exactly does that mean?
Well, it means that the government, an Islamic government, has a responsibility of contributing to the well-being of orphans in society.
What do you mean, like setting up orphanages or putting them into foster homes? Or
that's all left up to many circumstances and many details of many areas and of many dynamics that are in many places at many times in the Muslim realm.
Okay, but
in other words, it's determined by a court of law.
Right. There's some structure in place.
Yeah,
basically.
A judiciary structure that is held responsible for the well-being of orphans. You see, in an Islamic society, orphans have to be taken care of. They can't be just left alone wandering around and coming out of broken families and going into crime and substance abuse and these things that happen to orphans in ungodly societies. It's an order from above seven heavens to take care of the orphans in society. And one of the mechanisms or one of the layers of taking care of orphans in society falls upon the government. But then so when we say tuqsitu, it means something like judicial justice. If you're incapable of offering justice via the judiciary, and thus providing for the well-being of orphans, where they are taken care of, they have shelter, they have food, they have this type of family passion that belongs to them, that comes from a secure family life. So if you fear that you are incapable of doing that, before I go on to the following sentence in the ayah, this tells us there may come times in an Islamic lifestyle or an Islamic social order where the government fails. The government fails.
It could be in times of war, it could be...
It could be in any times.
Yeah.
So it could be attributed to wars, external factors. It could be attributed to some type of internal instability. And it could be attributed to the limited size of the government.
Right.
Because there's a big argument, especially those should be aware, or those in political science should be aware of the argument, how big should the government be? Should we have a very small government? Or should we have a monstrous government that intrudes in the affairs of people's lives, it invades their privacy, it spies on them, it does all of this? When you have something like that and that big, you'd get the sense that it's hard for a government like that to fail. So one of the suggestions of this ayah is, when we're speaking about an Islamic government, we're not speaking about a government like the superpower governments that we have in today's world, where there's a concentration of power, where they run roughshod over their citizens, when they do what they want to do, when they break their own laws, all of this. So that's an important inference that is implicit in the meaning of this ayah.
Okay. Well, one other thing about the ayah is, before you go on, you're saying that if you fear, right, not being able to provide this institutional justice, who is you in this command?
It is the Muslim public.
Okay. Not the government, basically.
No, not the government, because the government is going to, right now the government, because of the absence of government justice, what's the government going to do? Because the government, so, which means that the government is not the say-all in an Islamic social setup. It's a function, it's an instrument, it's a system, and it has to work in all of this. But it can malfunction.
Right.
And so great care is taken to preserve the honor and the dignity of the powerless in society, among them the orphans in this case. That's why there are other words in the Quran that speak about al-masakeen, al-fuqara, al-mustad'afeen, and women, and all of these that are subject to the propensity of those who have power to run over them, railroad them, basically. But this is not permitted to happen in an Islamic form of life and society. So, we go on. Let's go back to the ayah. It says, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى. See, there's a condition here. There's this fear that, we're not doing social justice to these orphans that we have. So that's followed by فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ. So you enter into a relationship of marriage and wedlock with a co-second and a co-third and a co-fourth wife.
So we're going to stop there for just a second, and we're going to take a word from our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to try to understand what a co-wife exactly means. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome Ramadan. Welcome Ramadan.
And welcome back. We're talking about the permit given to men to marry 4 wives. We discovered in the previous segment that permit is conditional. And so now we're trying to understand what the Imam means by a co-wife as opposed to a second wife, a third wife, and a fourth wife. So Imam, if you can go ahead and continue with the explanation.
Yes. So bear with me, because this is a delicate area and it requires your full attention. The wording of this ayah is فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ. The translations, first of all, let's clear this. The translations that we have, I can comfortably say all of them, maybe except the ones, the Ascendant Quran that tries to clear the air on this issue. It cannot pick up on the very delicate subtlety that is included in the construct of the wording that refers to a second, a third, and a fourth wife. The wording in Arabic, and I know I might lose some people, but I'm going to try not to. The wording of the ayah is mathna wa thulatha wa ruba'. And the reason I translate that into, there might be a better translation, but what I'm trying to do here, I'm more concerned with not losing the delicate meaning that is implicit in the construct, in the linguistic construct of these words. Because if the ayah meant you marry a second and a third and a fourth wife, it would have been worded saying, instead of saying mathna, you say ithnatayn, or you say thaniyatan. If it's 3, you say thalathan, or you say thalithatan. If it's 4, you say arban, or you say rabi'atan. But that's not the way the ayah is worded. It's worded saying mathna wa thulatha wa ruba'. The mathna here delivers the meaning of the consensus of the preceding wife agreeing to the marriage of the following wife. So that places them on the same par vis-a-vis their common husband. Many times, and this is the abuse that occurs in cultural and in less than fulfilling Islamic societies is the men, the husbands, they go out and they say, oh, I'm going to marry a second wife. And he could care very much less for what the first wife thinks about this.
And also, if you're saying second, third, and fourth, it might suggest a hierarchy, that the first wife is more influential, second wife is not really equal, she's a second.
Yeah.
So is that also...
That's also included, because the two wives are on an equal footing in the marriage. They're equal with themselves and they're equal with their husband. This is very important to understand. And so that's why we have this wording like that, which one of the reasons why it's not understood thoroughly is because the practice of the Arabic language itself, the penetration of the full range of the linguistic construct of the language has fallen short. In other words, we really don't have very influential people who are steeped in the Arabic language to catch these types of subtleties. And therefore, when it comes to translation, obviously, especially translators sometimes, of course they know two languages, and they should know them fluently, but they are not, and they know them horizontally, but doesn't mean that they are in depth in both languages. So these types of discrepancies occur at that time. And it is used as an excuse by those who want to get married to more than their first and original wife. So they go wife shopping, so to speak. And they find whoever they want to find, and they get married, and they say, oh yeah, we can do that. You see, the Quran says you can marry 2, 3, and 4 wives. It doesn't say that. There are conditions here. The first condition is that the second, third, and fourth co-wife that you're going to marry has to be a widow. Because what you're doing here is you're filling in for the incapability of the government to offer justice to the orphans. So if the government can't do it, you move in maybe as a very robust, healthy, wealthy husband who has the wherewithal and the means to marry a second equal wife, and you do so because to take care of orphans.
Could it also be a divorcee with children?
Yeah, because
as opposed to just a widow?
Yeah, I think this is one of the areas that would probably fall under the differences of fiqh opinions, because there's a concept of usba in Islam, and that means in the case of divorce there would be an argument made that the extended family of the divorcee is responsible for the well-being of the orphans. So there's a family argument, an immediate family argument there that stands up for the orphans. And so you're taking this subject into scholarly give and take.
Okay. All right. We're going to come back to this and talk about what major problems this solves in society. But unfortunately, as far as this program is concerned, we've run out of time. We hope that you stay tuned till tomorrow, for we're going to come back and go into a little bit more depth insofar as this ayah is concerned. But we'll be back again tomorrow, same channel, same time, and we hope to see you then. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.